reason that I'm here is because the club is seeking change.
He said, well, whether you come or not, you're going to see a completely different Spurs team under me.
My hope and my desire and what I'm going to try and do is give our supporters hope and belief that we're going to embark on something special.
Welcome into the Tottenham Depot. I am your host, Andrew. This is not a podcast. This is a live stream, but we are doing it anyway because Tottenham Hotspur Football Club are your 2025 Europa League champions. Holy crap. I cannot believe I have just said it. We're going to have a party tonight, folks. This is what it's all about. Scott is here. Caroline is here. We're hoping Todd's going to join here in a little bit. Wow, guys. Spurs just won the Europa League. Scott, what's up, my man?
This is incredible. I'm still at a loss for words. I told everyone on our show last Sunday that if we won the match, I would have a hard time speaking today. But I'm here. I'm a European Cup winner. I'm going to crack one. As my great friend Mark pointed out today, we are now a normal club. We are now a normal club, and it feels great. Gone are the days. Like, I don't want to get ahead of the show here, but what is the media going to do now? Like, what is the general overarching football narrative across world football for people to talk about now? It's over. I think Todd probably has something to say about that. Speaking of the media bias against Tottenham, here's the Todd father himself.
What I'll say is that any day that you can be pronounced champions of Europe is a good fucking day. So
it is that.
That's where
the Todd father made it. He's here. Caroline's here as well. Caroline, how's the Europa League?
I mean, I still can hardly believe it. The media, unfortunately, are still talking their talk because I had to almost mute the post game. It was that annoying that I was like, you know what? I'm not going to let this ruin my moment. I'm just going to soak in the vibes and ignore everything they're saying because, haters are going to hate. But we're the winners, so.
It's true. It's true. Just to let everyone watching on our YouTube page know, you can drop a comment. We'll try to feature as many folks celebrating on this wonderful occasion as we can. This is not a podcast. We have no format tonight. We're just here to hang and celebrate and share in the camaraderie that this football club has given us. We are going to talk about the game. Obviously, we're going to talk about what it means to us, what it means going forward. All of those things, but we're just happy to have you folks, our listeners, our viewers along for this ride. Oh my goodness. Where do you guys want to start? Because let's actually talk about the game a little bit, because the game was a game. It was exciting. I mean, it was a 1-0 game. It was exciting for that. It was
a game.
I want to talk about our experiences watching this game too, because Caroline, I know you had a split household. I had to watch this game on delay. I didn't even get to watch it live, which is part of the reason we're doing this live stream a little bit later, so that I made sure I had time to watch. But yeah, like go ahead, fire away, guys. Like, what was the experience of watching this game like?
I just want to push back on the idea. I keep saying that this was a bad game. I mean, maybe it's just that I was so invested in it personally, but I was tense. Like, I seriously did not stop shaking the entire game. And I spent the last 10 minutes plus stoppage pacing around my couch because I just couldn't handle the nerves anymore. But I really feel like, there weren't a ton of maybe big chances, but Tottenham defended resolutely. United were not without their moments. Amad Diallo was scaring the crap out of me every time he got on the ball. But I just feel like for Spurs, every single player on the pitch was giving it 100% in this game, and that's all you can ask for. I would have liked a couple more goals to feel safe, but I'll take defending that 1-goal lead and keeping the clean sheet and walking away with the trophy.
Yeah, it's almost as if Ange Postecoglou had a plan B and even C on the night. I was telling Scott before we went live, my television, if you're watching here, is right back here. I stood behind this couch right here and next to this Ted Lasso blanket, and I leaned over the couch the entire match. I stood and then I knelt. I knelt at times, just leaning over. I could not sit. I knelt. I leaned. I stood. I grabbed the couch. I shook it a number of times. My wife can attest, who was downstairs trying to finish up her workday, that I was loud, but not obviously too disruptive. I mean, I am still married after all. But my goodness, like the tension that you're talking about. And Caroline, you didn't even mention, I mean, I mentioned like you have a split household right now. You have a Man United fan there, and that part of it, I can't even imagine. I watched this game on a delay and by myself, so like being able to watch it amongst other people had to be an experience, especially when one of them was rooting against you, right?
Well, we had kind of agreed before the game to be good sports about it, and except for maybe some grumbling on both sides about calls not going the way we wanted, it was pretty respectful. And I did joke to my dad afterwards, like, Tottenham needed this more than United did. Just let us have this. And he didn't really protest. So
there's no question about that. TC, what about you, man? What was your experience like actually watching this game? Like, we're talking about a tension-filled, like, this was obviously not easy, especially in the second half.
It was fucking crazy. And the reason why is because I was with San Diego Spurs, and we were 300 deep in fair play. It was wall to wall, spilling out the back, Tottenham on every single television. The place went absolutely nuts. When that Brennan Johnson goal went in, I celebrated harder than I did, I don't know, since we were in the stadium and Richie scored that offside goal. Like, like it was that visceral when that ball went into the back of the net. And it was, I have to say, it was the most perfectly jammy, nonsensical Tottenham Hotspur Cup final goal, shades of Jonathan Woodgate and shit over there. It was incredible. I loved every second of it. But talking about the nerves, dude, when you're standing there and like you're shoulder to shoulder and everybody's super sweaty and there's like 300 Spurs fans and like a handful of United fans, and like there's chants and songs and people are swearing at the referee non-calls, and the drink lines are 15 minutes long just to get a beverage, and it's everything that you could ever want from a supporters club day out. Absolutely incredible scenes. The final whistle celebrations inside of Fair Play, I'll remember this day for the rest of my life. It was incredible.
That's so beautiful. So freaking beautiful. The game itself, guys, like, let's talk about the lineup for a second, because I, for one, was slightly surprised, although it made sense when I saw the game play out. I was slightly surprised that Sonny started on the bench in this game. And any surprise from anyone else? Any surprise from the rest? I mean, they went with a midfield too that we kind of almost expect, if they were going to go with a jammy midfield, like you're talking about, Todd, like let's just stick everything in the gears of what Man United want to do, which, by the way, wasn't much. Like they didn't quite have a lot going on for them, but the midfield, I mean, all of it, Scott, like, what did you make of the lineup as it stood?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly wasn't terribly surprised that Sonny didn't start. I think that was the sensible decision, and Ange has always proven to be a sensible dude, to a fault at times, right? So wasn't surprising. I do, real quick, I want to shout out a couple of people who I know are watching. Got to shout out my mom. Love you, Mom. Just got a text from her that she's watching along, and then my wife, who's taking care of our 9-week-old, who I can hear screaming in the other room. If anyone does hear that, I apologize. But yeah, shout out Kat. Them watching along. But yeah, not surprised by Sonny. I actually think that Man United's decision to start Bruno in the pivot, rather, I mean, he didn't really play in a pivot, right? But just in the sense of the lineup and the formation to start deeper with Diallo and Mason Mount forward, I think really benefited us too. So I think Ruben Amorim got that dead wrong. A lot that I could say about his comments in the pre-match stuff this week too, right? But yeah,
apparently even in the post match was saying how the better team lost on the night. Which wow, if that's something he really thinks, then maybe the right manager will get sacked out of this match, which is also something we're going to have to come on to. But sorry, Scott, go on.
No, you're good. Unfortunately, I don't think they can afford to sack him. But I was watching ESPN.
Or fortunately,
fortunately, yes. Unfortunately for them, but ESPN FC was very, very stark in their talk of Ruben Amorim's shortcomings and how none of them feel like he's capable of getting Man United to a better place, which again, we're not here to talk about Man United, but it was really nice to hear why I bring that up. Really nice to hear that all of the negative narrative was around Man United and not Spurs any longer. So funny how a trophy of this magnitude can do that, right? But yeah, like I said, I think he got it wrong with playing Bruno a little bit deeper in the midfield. That allowed Sarr, Basuma, and Bentancur to just kind of eat Casemiro up, and not
big time.
Man United was okay. Like, I'm not going to say that we ran over them by any means. They probably created more chances than we did, but we just had complete control of the match. And what I will say is that is a textbook final victory right there.
Yep.
You don't play that great. You just make sure you don't concede. You find a Jamie goal, like Todd said. That's really the only way you win finals, and unless you want to jump off the cliff without a parachute and see what happens and really go for it. But you don't do that anymore these days, right? So,
and shout out to Ange. That guy knows how to win finals.
Yeah, 100%. That was a class victory today.
There's no question it was class. Let's touch on the goal before because I don't want to gloss over that. The second I saw Bentancur darting into the box and getting the ball, I was like, oh, what's this we have here? And he puts the ball out to Sarr. And this is what I mean about the midfield in this game. Like, obviously a lot of the consternation coming into this was no Kulusevski, no Bergvall, no Maddison. What are Spurs going to do in the midfield? And they sent out their three midfielders who all season have been, especially the likes of Basuma and Bentancur, a little bit less so with Sarr, but those three guys have been maligned because of a myriad different reasons. Some of them justifiably, and some of them maybe not so justifiably. But all three of those guys I thought did such a good job of playing each other's roles throughout the match. Like they were very rotational, and they did a great job. And when Bentancur got that ball at the Sarr, I said, oh, he's going to bang across, because that's what they've been doing this entire time. And Spurs did such a great job of creating the space to be able to just bang crosses into the box and see what can happen. And I don't know how Brennan Johnson got that ball to go in the net, but by God, he did. And thank goodness he did, because it was one of the more, like, we're talking about how like kind of jumbled and jammy this whole match was. The goal was that as well. Like, it was such a gritty, like, I don't know how the ball with the spin, and it bounced, and it looked like it might have hit Shaw at one point, and then all of a sudden it's in, and I'm just like, oh, that. And those final, the goal came in the 42nd minute, and however many minutes of stoppage time there were at the end of the first half. But that brief a period of time, I'm just like, get to halftime. All we need to do is get into halftime, have a little breather, have a little reset. And I felt like the first half it went about as swimmingly as it could have, because Spurs really did have, I wouldn't even say all the momentum, but they just had the better of the chances, and they had flow and they had pace. And I knew going into the break with a lead, things were going to be different in the second half. I just knew it was going to be way more defensive and way more counterattack. In fact, I did my trusty legal pad of notes, and I even wrote down, when is too early to bring in a player like Sonny to just try and hit him on the counter, because that's all Spurs were going to try and do, is try and hit him on the counter in the second half. And they waited a good amount of time, Todd, but it eventually came. And I feel like I'm rambling at this point, but my goodness, like,
no, you're not.
Go on.
They're important points. Yeah, they're important points. What I want to say is that, like, I thought the substitutions from Ange were masterful today, which is not something that we can always say about Ange's substitutions. But I thought that the counterbalance of not only bringing on Sonny, but bringing on Danzo I think really was just perfect. And then flipping and bringing on Spence so that you got fresh legs on the wing and bringing in Archie Gray was like, this is exactly what we need to close this thing out. I thought, again, like a shout to Ange for managing the shit out of a cup final.
Dude, also, as Jamie as the goal was, that goal was scored because of the tactics. Ange said, okay, we talked a lot about on the show. Let me back up for a second. We talked a lot on the show about how Bruno Fernandes was going to be the linchpin for United, and if we could find a way to just kind of nullify him, there was a good chance we could win this game. So Ange said, all right, I'm going to compact the middle of the pitch. I'm going to play kind of by default, but you didn't have to. You could have gone to Odegaard at the 10. You could have gone Bentancur more as a 10. You could have gone Sonny as a 10, but he just jammed up the middle, made them play down the wings, and pretty much anything creative had to come from those wing backs, which, sure, go ahead, but also that's going to leave a lot of space for Brennan Johnson and Richarlison to get in behind and attack those three center backs who haven't played much football and are kind of clunky at times, right? And if you look at that goal, unfortunately, and I don't mean to pick on Harry Maguire, maybe I do, but Harry Maguire left all kinds of space where that shouldn't have been left, right? And that allowed, I don't remember who it was, one of the three midfielders, and I'll never remember which one of the three it was, made a brilliant run, took the space that Harry Maguire gave him, and that allowed Brennan Johnson to find himself in a 1v1, right? So long-winded answer here, but all I'm saying is the tactics and especially plugging up the middle really allowed those wingers to kind of have a feast with those wingbacks needing to be the creative outlet for United. So again, Ange got it spot on today, and he's proven himself very capable of managing one-match scenarios this season, time and time again.
Let's talk about Ange for a second.
I was on mute if he's trying to drop some knowledge.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's a great shout that you made, Scotty, about shutting down and clogging up the middle. It looked like, from what I could see, that Pop Montessor was playing man to man against Bruno Fernandes for like 80 minutes.
Yeah,
and that. He had a whale of a game, did Sarr, and I thought it was just an incredible effort. There's so much guts, like the Vicario saves. Like we're going to come on to the other cool stuff in the second half, but like there was not a single player on the pitch that you could look at and go, you didn't give me absolutely everything you had today.
Well, and on Brennan, I feel like with that goal, he simply just wanted it more. Mm-hmm. And it kind of feels like this whole season has been building up to him having this moment in a massive game because he's earned it, frankly. Like, he's worked hard all season. He's adjusted when he's needed to the tactics, like Scott was talking about. And, my family can vouch for me. I was predicting that Brennan would score first. And I didn't think it was going to be the last goal, but I'll take it, I feel so happy for him.
I'm glad you bring that up because I wrote this down on the Yellow Legal Pad here. It's easy to forget the start of the season that Brennan Johnson had and was missing chances and was taking abuse on social media, deleted all of his social media. This dude is the leading scorer of this team this season. It's not Sonny, it's not Madison, it's not Kulusevski, it's Brennan Johnson. And Brennan Johnson got the game-winning goal that helped this team lift a trophy. I just think that needed to be double-clicked on. It's a great shout, Caroline. And man, yes, thank God for Brennan Johnson, which is not something we thought we would be saying, 18 months ago. Like that is really big.
What, 1% of footballers score a game-winning goal in a European Cup? Probably less than that. Like half a percent of professional footballers, 1/4% of them, right? Brennan Johnson scored the goal that won Tottenham their first European trophy in 40-some years, right? So, and all the talk about the price tag and blah, 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 dude scores goals. It's as simple as that, and goals cost money in this game. So I couldn't be happier for Brennan. And his post-match interview, too, was so cool. Like, every athlete says, I don't care if it's my goal or not, we won. But Brennan Johnson said it with his chest. He fully believed, like, I do not care if that's my goal or not. Like, we just won a European Cup. Just a good dude.
He's a good dude, and I think like I remember calling on this pod that I thought the Ange system was going to help Brennan Johnson score like 25 goals, and I mean it's a little audacious, but I feel as though
I was going to say, wait a second, he can't be that far off from that, Todd. What is he?
He's close.
He's got to be around 20 right now, right?
Yeah, somewhere in there. I mean, involvements. Well, in all comps, yeah. No, but I mean, like I think that, like, and I was having this conversation. He's a polarizing figure, is Brennan, for Spurs fans. I was having this conversation today at the pub, and they said, you know, Brennan Johnson, he's not a great player, but he scores goals. And I was like, well, what are we doing? Like, what are we actually talking about right now? And I was like, you know, the thing is that somebody to show up at the back stick like a ninja and put it in the back of the net is critical. And we got a guy that does that very, very well. And he was Ange's first pickup, too. If you remember, he was the first guy that Ange was like, give me this guy.
Give me that.
And for him to score, it's like kind of a full circle moment. It's really cool.
Well, these days when I think because of the modern game, I think when someone says he's not a good player, they mean he's not a technical player is what they're really saying, right? And that's perfectly fine. Brennan Johnson isn't incredibly technical, but he finishes. And there's been a lot of famous strikers throughout the history of the game who had zero technical ability but put the ball in the back of the net. Like I said, it's the most expensive thing you can buy as a football club is someone to score goals, and goals cost money, and the hardest thing to do in a soccer match is score a goal. We all know that. So yeah, shout to Brennan Johnson. Just stand strong against the haters, my man.
The other thing I had in my notes from this match is the fact that it felt like it went by so quickly. I don't know if anybody else felt like that.
Not at all. That was the longest 90 minutes of my life.
That's the benefit of watching it on delay.
I think it is. I think you're right about that. But I especially thought that about the first half. I think it was just because of the lack of whistles. Because and that's
definitely felt smoother.
And that's I want to kind of lean a little bit into not so much a conversation about officiating, because I did not think this game was officiated very well for either team. It was allowed to get a little bit more physical than it should have, and there were a lot of just really obvious fouls that were not harsh fouls, but they were just like, well, that's a foul and it was not called, and we're just letting these guys play. The one that really, really stood out to me was in the second half, actually, when Brennan Johnson is breaking down the way and just obviously gets fouled, taken down, the ball goes out, and they just pointed for goal kick. And I was like, what are we doing? Like, it was just a lot of that kind of nonsense. I just thought it was really, really poorly officiated. I'm glad you brought up, Scott, Bruno Fernandes and Diallo too, because those were the two players that I was like kind of the most worried about. This match, despite it being the fourth match against United this season, and by the way, this is the first time ever that Manchester United have lost 4 straight matches to us, which I just think is really incredible. And it's even more incredible that it happened in the same season. Really, really, really incredible. But the Bruno Fernandes thing, this was just a reminder, and I can't even remember back to the other 3 matches we played really despising that guy so much. And I was telling Scott before, like, remember when we were this close to signing him before he went to United?
And we bought Gedson Fernandes.
Right, we bought Gedson Fernandes. We brought the wrong Fernandes.
Gedson.
Except did we? Like,
shout to Gedson.
But like, that's kind of my point. Like, that guy was not a difference maker in this match, but guys like Pap Sarr, Ibasuma, and even Rodrigo Bentancur in the midfield were difference makers in this match. And that's all. I just thought that was really there's a lot of poetic things about this. The other thing I thought about this match, frankly, guys, is that the narrative coming into it was obviously, oh, this is a 16th and 17th place team, and both of these teams stink. One team stunk tonight, and that was Manchester United. They were very, very bad, and partially because Spurs made them look bad, but partially because they were very, very bad. Like, they had no offensive plan, no offensive attack. They didn't really have much of a clue at all. And I just think, and bear with me here, this might be a little bit of a stretch, but I think that's the reason that throughout this entire build-up to this game, I was super nervous, because I was nervous that Spurs were going to have to basically not lose this game. And that's, of course, going to make me nervous as a Spurs fan, having watched them for so many years, because they always seem to find a way to lose. And they didn't do that. And I just thought that was really poetic. Like, Spurs didn't find a way to lose. They found a way to win, which is...
Dude, okay. And I think that
it's such a beautiful... It's poetic to me. I don't know.
You want to talk about poetry? I think this is a perfect segue to the Mickey Van de Ven clearance off the line.
Yeah, let's talk
because,
about
it. Okay, I just want to say there will be a still shot of that will live in, there it is, that will live in Spurs lore for as long as we are alive. That's as good as any goal that was scored. As a matter of fact, that was easily more acrobatic and athletic than the goal that was scored. The timing.
Correct.
The timing was also, to clear that ball.
Todd, it was also way more athletic than Vicario attempting to catch the ball 5 seconds prior to this.
Off of his face. Yeah.
Hey, he made a really great save later, though. So
look, I'm not here to dig out Vicario. I'm not here to do it. But my goodness,
there were a couple of Vicario moments today, Andrew, that were questionable. But there were also some times where he stood on his fucking head, and we don't win this game without saves that he made.
No question.
And everybody had each other's back. That was really what came through for me, was that we were not going to concede a goal come hell or high water.
Well, and Todd, you just mentioned something. This doesn't happen if I can't remember what you said now, but if that ball goes in right there, the one that Van de Ven clears, we lose that game. We were not finding another goal, and United was coming at us later in the match. So that no doubt, Mickey won us the match with that.
Well, on that note, career. Scott, no offense to Romero, but I truly don't understand how he got man of the match over Mickey. Because you're right.
I had that same exact
he won
thought.
us this game. He did.
I had the same exact thought. Now, I will say Romero made some really, really clutch plays late in the match, like to win goal kicks that could have been corners. And I think like maybe that's what factored in. But I had the same exact thought.
He ran the pitch, did Romero, though. He was the absolute enforcer in this game.
That's the guy, and I'm taking this from Nico Cantor, so I don't want this to come off as an original thought, right? But
shout out to Nico.
Nico, honestly, if anyone doesn't know Nico Cantor, best pundit on the planet across the game of football, in my opinion, morning footy regular. But he said this morning, if I'm looking at both of these rosters, and I'm totally paraphrasing here, but he said something like, if I'm looking at both of these rosters, Cuda Romero is the first name that I want on my team in a cup final, like hands down, no question about it. And I 100% agree. Not only because he's won a World Cup, right? No one else on the field today has ever done that, but he's just that type of guy that stands tall in finals. He keeps his cool. He doesn't, but he does at the same time. Like, as much as I'll say, yeah, Romero's good for a red, not in big games. Like, I really don't ever have that concern with him in these big matches too, which I think says a lot about him. And he's not leaving. He's staying at Spurs.
I love that. I love that energy. Keep that energy. I couldn't agree with you more. I think the biggest thing that I want to say about Romero is he's never lost a cup final. And to go along with that is that the only time that Casemiro loses a cup final is when he plays against the Romero team. So all the way around, Cudy Romero is the guy in a final that you want lining up on your side. And then when you look to his left and you see a God blessed Gucci model, it's ridiculous. Like, Mickey Van de Ven is one of the most athletic individuals I've ever seen. To be that big and move that well is wild.
Yeah, just imagine both of those guys being healthy and sticking with this club for an entire season. Like, imagine what this team could potentially do. That's truly, truly some wild shit. I want to shout out Sean Hurl. He's in the comments talking about some match stats. And that is, I was not surprised when I looked up the full-time stats from this match. But then again, anybody know how, like, 27% possession for Spurs? That is not Ange ball. Like, and obviously the Obviously, the second half really, I mean, it was 20% in the second half of this
Sure.
match.
Well, let's have a conversation about that, because I think enough can't be said about the fact that when you play somebody 4 different times in one season, like Ange said in the lead up to this game, for the 3 other times that we played them, we had a completely different strategy.
Yep.
Each time that we did it. And he had another completely different strategy again this time. And I thought he crushed it.
Ange had a lot to say, actually, not only in the lead up, but in the post match. He's done a number of interviews already, did them on the pitch, did them with studio crews, but in his press conference, he had some really interesting things to say. One of them, he was asked, and I unfortunately was not able to pull the audio or the video of this, so you're just gonna have to go with me reading it to you. But one of the questions he was asked was, how does a club let go of a manager who's just delivered their first European trophy in 41 years, which is a hell of a snarky comment from a journalist. But I don't even, by the way, I don't even want to address what happened in the pre-match with some journalist trying to call him a clown. That's out of bounds, and Ange reacted in kind, and I'm happy he did. But this is what Ange said to that. He said, look, I think I said yesterday, I'm pretty kind of not relaxed. Relaxed is not the word, because I would be disappointed if we couldn't continue on this path. But it's not a criticism. I understand why it would be difficult for a club like this to buy into one person's vision. And this is the key part of this quote here. Ready? I remember even when I signed with the club, and even Daniel said, we went after winners and it didn't work. And now we've got Ange. But mate, I'm a winner. I have been a serial winner my whole career. That is the biggest fuck you to his chairman, without actually being vulgar or saying anything wrong, that I have ever heard. That is such an incredible, and first of all, taking a step back, for Daniel Levy to have actually said something like that, which he did, he said it. We heard him say it. For him to have said something like that, oh, we tried winners, now we've got Ange. And for Ange to just be like, well, what do you got now? Like, we can talk about, and look, we're going to do a full-on podcast, and we've got time, I think, to talk about the Ange of it all, the Ange in, the Ange out, all that nonsense. But like, I wouldn't put it past Ange, and I wouldn't begrudge him to go full-on double birds and walk away at this point. Now, he's already said he doesn't want to do that. He said he wants to stay on this path.
He's building,
but he would have every right after something like that, after a quote like that, to do it. He spoke a lot about this being one of his biggest accomplishments. It's definitely the toughest thing he's ever had to do in football, was winning this trophy. He talked about wanting to drive the club forward. And what do you guys have to say about Ange Postecoglou at this point? Because, man, this is a guy who has just been friggin' through it.
Yeah, I want to share another quote from Ange, because obviously I've had my criticisms of him this season at times, but I think the important thing that he's done has been to give the players belief in themselves, and never really kind of waver from that, the way that we've sometimes seen the serial winner managers do and throw players under the bus. But I really liked what he said after the game. It was on the CBS post game. They interviewed him, and he said, "You've won one now. There's nothing to stop you from going again." And I genuinely think the players will have taken that ethos to heart. Like, you are winners now. Like, the sky's the limit, just keep going.
Well, I 100% agree. And kind of, pontificated a little bit further on that. And he said, you can't explain to someone what it feels like to win. You can tell them what it'll feel like when you win, but until you win, until you're in that locker room after the match and you're a winner, you don't really know what that feels like. And once you feel it, it's contagious and you don't want to let it go. And they're going to want to win another one. And Andrew, my question is, how stoked are you about a Super Cup?
Well, look, the Super Cup.
And if we win the Super Cup, Club World Cup football in the U.S.
I hadn't even thought about that. That's not even something that is like, as we're all still kind of processing what we've witnessed today. I hadn't processed that part of it. The Super Cup to me has always kind of been a glorified preseason match. I get that it comes with a big shiny trophy as well, and there's glory to that. It's not like I'm not saying UEFA Super Cup equals Audi Cup at all. Like, trust me, that's not what I'm getting at.
No, but it's closer. It's closer to the Community Shield than it is to the Champions League.
Correct. But I'm excited for all of it. I think the thing that I definitely still have not grasped is the fact that Spurs are going to be in the Champions League next year, which is just like was completely not expected from this season, obviously. And it very much will lead to a lot of conversations that need to be had about the direction of this club. Not just I'm not just talking about Ange and the manager, but this is not a Champions League built squad right now. That's for goddamn sure. So
and Ange said that in his postgame too.
Oh, of course he did. And the other thing I wanted to shout from Ange, he made a comment, and it was very kind of under the radar, but about after the January window, you know, he kind of knew this was the trophy that they were going to have to go after in order to try and accomplish something this year. He knew it was going to be Europa League or bust, you know, in January. I think a lot of us knew at that point, but he said it, and he said they had conversations with it internally, and not everyone was really on board with it either. That was the part that made my ears perk up, is that he had to kind of say, well, I know you don't really love this, you know, but this is the way it's going to have to be. And to make that bet on yourself, because in essence, that I know it's a team game, and it took the whole club to get this done. But for Ange to make that bet on himself and actually get it done, oh man, that takes stones. It takes some big Australian stones.
In that same interview, and again, I'm paraphrasing aggressively here, but he said, "We threw the league." is really what he said. And honestly,
that's on me.
He said that's on me. And I texted you guys in the group chat, and I said, look, I'm back on board with this guy. And look, never have I slandered him, never have I talked poorly about him. I think I've always spoken very highly of Ange Postecoglou, but I also felt that it just maybe wasn't working tactically, and we needed a new direction. Obviously, the past week, I have gradually started to like somewhat change my mind on that. But then it was that interview right there where it all kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. Next year, we're not going to win the Premier League. I'll just come out and say it. We just don't have the squad for it. But
that's bold of you.
We could win another cup. And I think that if Postecoglou is at the helm, we have a good chance of doing that. I think whatever happens, this club needs a lot of work, no matter who comes in. And after what I saw today, I'm willing to go through that with Ange Postecoglou as opposed to someone else. I think he deserves it. And I think the other thing that factors in here, though, that we do have to think about is we know we're going to need some major work done as far as incomings and outgoings probably this summer, right? There's a lot of probably like youth into first team guys that are going to be moved on, and there's going to be work to do. My only question is, knowing we're going to see an increase of 115 to 120 million in revenue beyond what we already planned on spending to build the squad, does leave you want to hand 250 million to Ange or to someone else when you look at that league form? That's the question, right? But I personally feel that at this point, we have a better chance of winning more silverware with Ange than without Ange, and I don't include the Premier League in that, and I'm okay with that.
Well, you know, the funny thing about that too, though, is winning this trophy. Not only does it get you into the Champions League, not only does it give your club a night that they haven't had in 17 years, or hell, 41 years if you want to go back to the last European trophy. But it gives you the clout to have said, yeah, I know we had a shitty Premier League campaign. I know we're going to finish 17th, but we did all of that. We made all of that sacrifice, and we stepped in it for over a number of weeks and months in order to do this. So like you can at least point back to, and it's kind of what I was talking about with him deciding that, like, not that they were throwing the league in January, starting in January, but in essence, this was the sacrifice made. And it does give him something to point to say, but there's this, like they went about it in a different path. Obviously, would Spurs have loved to finish in the top 5 this year and make the Champions League that way? Absolutely. But guess what? They did it anyway because they knew they had a path to be able to do it.
Well, dude, I want to talk about this directly because you know how Daniel Levy operates, right? Which means everyone's contract is incentive laden. So what I love about this more than anything else is you know that Ange had something in his contract for winning, right? For winning a cup. There's a huge incentive for that. But he also had a different incentive for getting the team into a Champions League. And so the fact that he was able to do both of those things is fantastic because Levy's going to have to pay that man a lot of money. And it's therefore going to be more financially prudent to have Ange stick around than it is to ship Ange and try to start over again. So now it's where is he going to spend money? And hopefully with Don Baratici back at the helm, we're going to make some business happen.
By the way, we're going to save that conversation. That is not one we will be having tonight. I will put my foot down on that.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Sorry, Caroline. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, like, I do think the magnitude of this achievement, winning the Europa League, does change things a little bit looking into next season. It feels hard to see him going at this point. But at the same time, I do think that the club is not going to allow us to get anywhere close to a 17th place finish next year. And if we even start to slide, I think that they're going to, they're just going to have to make a decision that we can't let the league go every season.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll see.
The Premier League position next season can't have 2 digits to it. No,
exactly.
At all.
And it's all going to depend,
remotely.
like you said, on the recruitment. Like, he has to be set up to succeed properly this time. Like, I think we all understand that.
It's going to be a really interesting summer for sure.
Exactly.
Not only with Paratici, but the Ange of it all. And I don't like. There is a little bit of me that's like, don't go down the Erik ten Hag route. Like, don't do what United did and rely on something that may not be reliable. But I don't think Ange is Erik ten Hag. That's where I was going to go, Todd. You gotta let me finish the thought before you start groaning at me, man.
Well, because he has the player buy-in, I think, is the big distinction there.
And that's
the other piece is we're at a different part within the project, like in the backing of the project. Like, whereas Man United had a bunch of aging players on terrible fucking contracts. Like, we're on the complete opposite end of that, where we've got a bunch of young players and a great nucleus, and it's just a matter of building on those things.
There's a really, really easy question here from Nathaniel in the comments that I want somebody to answer. Who had a better season, Spurs or Arsenal? Anybody want to take a stab?
Oh, Spurs, obviously. We've got the silverware to prove it.
Trophy.
There are
Champions of Europe. You'll never sing that.
There are so many angry Arsenal fans on the internet today. Just the only numbers on their keyboard that work are 1 and 7. It's really, really strange. They're just typing 1-7 all over the place, and I don't know, man. You just tweet the Europa League trophy at them. That's all you got to friggin' do at this point. Guys, there's one thing that we really haven't talked a lot about, and that's Heung-Min Son, the captain of this club. I just want to flash this photo real quick. Does this do anything for anyone?
Welsh Mafia.
Garrett's hair is looking great. I just want to say that.
Honestly, looking at this photo, the hairs on my arm are standing up right now. Like, that's what's going on in my world. Heung-Min Son.
Also, did y'all see the video of Ben and Sonny reuniting with Llorente? That was a really touching moment.
Yeah, it was. It was very cool.
So a few things from the post-match celebrations. One, James Maddison was definitely in his full kit, which is fucking hilarious. Like, why?
Well, no, they told him he had to get in his full kit in order to get a medal.
Is that really what
that's what he said that in his interview.
Kulusevski wasn't in his full kit. Like, he had his
Kulusevski was fresh off a fucking knee surgery.
But even like fair. The goalkeepers all had on their goalkeeper kits, and God knows they were not seeing the pitch. So
Fraser Forster had his goalkeeper kit and his $100,000 Rolex Daytona on.
The other thing is, and again, Sonny. Let's talk about Sonny for a second. Sonny, if Spurs shared the video, and it's a little silly just in because but it's very Son. Son apparently got a knock during the game. Actually, I shouldn't say during the game. He got a knock during the post game, lifting the trophy. He dinged himself on his forehead because someone bumped into him as he was lifting the trophy up. And he's got a shiner above his eyebrow. You can actually kind of see it on the photo we're sharing on the screen here. Guys, there's so much Sonny content out there right now. What do we have to say about this guy? He sticks with it's there's a lot to be said about sticking with it. And look, he came on in the 65th minute or so in this match in relief of Richarlison, who is another guy we probably need to say a little bit more about. But this meant everything to him, obviously, and to be the guy that's been here for so long, and obviously Ben standing there right next to him in this photo has been here so long, to do this on this night and contribute in the ways that these guys have. Look, they're not the superstars of this team anymore. They're not the everyday starters even, but this was just about as sweet as it could have gotten for Heung-Min Son and his captaincy. And I don't know what else I can say about this guy. He's obviously he said it after the match. All right, I'm a legend now. He finally won something with Tottenham Hotspur.
Dude, I don't think anybody can argue with that, Scott. Oh, sorry. No, I'm just going to say the first thing we can say about Son is just the humility it takes to be comfortable not starting in this match. And who's to say that? I find it very hard to believe that Son gave any pushback to that decision, right? Because I believe that Son understood it was the best decision for the team towards winning a trophy. And he came on at what was it, 65-ish, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there, right? And did a job and help see a match out. But to be the captain of the team who has stuck by us through thick and thin and be okay not starting says a lot about his character. And we've all said it at some point. We talked about poetry earlier, but there's nothing more poetic than Sonny being the one to lift our first trophy in 17 years. You may actually think, if you're newer to the sport, that this is our first ever trophy as a club. And it's wonderful that Sonny was the first person to lift that trophy since 2008. It just makes too much sense.
No doubt. And for the uninitiated, Caroline, we have actually won this trophy now 3 times, and actually won the first iteration of this trophy in 1972 as well.
But this was the first trophy that I've gotten to see since I've become a Tottenham fan. And Sonny is a huge reason why I'm even a fan of this club. So from that perspective, it just means a lot to me that he got to lift this, because he really is the heart of the team. And like you said, Andrew, he's just been so humble as a leader, making sure to lift up his teammates when they needed it. And the thing that I kind of had to smile at, when he was going to pick up the trophy from the UEFA president, and you could see just the cumulative effect of waiting so long to win this trophy. He was so impatient to lift it that he didn't even get centered in front of the UEFA, archway. He was like, no, we're doing this now. Here it is.
Yep. And the players just throw this thing up.
Yeah. The players who love him were just like, okay, we're just going to move over. Screw your photo off, UEFA. This is what's happening.
Really love that the club also got all the young kids in there, this season in the Europa League. Everybody got a little touch of this thing. Everybody was a part of this journey. Yep. The club brought a ton of people out, behind the scenes folks. The club knew that this had the chance to be this kind of night, which I think is a little bit of self-awareness that we don't always get from our club, which I can appreciate. They also made the plans to have a parade, which is going to happen this Friday through North London, which is incredible. Man United weren't going to do that. The good guys won in this one, and that's what I think I'm going to take away from this, is that it finally happened, and we're glad it finally happened. But we're glad for photos like that I'm looking at right now. It's just like, man, again, the hairs on my arm are standing just thinking about it.
And photos like that will be on the wall and in the, Tottenham Hotspur dressing rooms and stadium for the rest of our life and beyond. Like, we will remember this day forever.
Yeah. Also, no doubt about it. I was just thinking about it. I think that every person that received a medal today, except for Alfie Whiteman, and this is nothing against him at all, but I think he's the only one that received a medal that didn't contribute to a Spurs victory in this competition. I really think that he is the only one. Obviously, Brandon Austin did. Ajayi did. Mikey Moore did. Dane Scarlett did. Will Lancashire did.
Yeah.
I think he's the only one, and that's incredible.
It was a full team effort.
Yeah, that's incredible. I wonder how often that's happened, that like one person on the roster doesn't contribute to a campaign like that.
Well, and to the poetic nature of all of this, like I think that was always what it was going to take for this club to finally break this hoodoo. Like that's kind of, to me, it was always going to take just like, and maybe even it's going to take a 17th place finish. Like, honestly, the absurdity of that, the absurdity of the season that we have been through as fans, as supporters of this club, I think it was always going to take something weird, and it was always going to take guys like Will Lancashire and Brandon Austin having to make contributions. Like that is what it took. And it was, of course, going to have to take us beating another English club and beating them for a fourth time. And when I say beating them, I mean emphasis on the word beating, because, like, man, they can't talk anything for a while about us. Like, nobody can, frankly, let alone United. But we're joking, we're having fun. The banter, Arsenal not winning anything, all of it. But like, now's the time where, and I'm not trying to like turn the page so quickly, but like, now's the time where you're all right. The trophy's out of the way. Like, it does really feel like that 1,000-pound gorilla off your back.
And exactly what I was going to say. The weight is lifted.
It'll kick on. It does. I feel it, even just as a supporter. I feel like, I don't feel any hesitancy going out in Spurs gear. Like, not that I ever really did, but like, now I can clap back when somebody wants to say something, and that feels kind of nice.
I will say that, like, my identity as a Spurs fan just feels different now, and I can't put my finger on it yet, but it just feels different. Like, I feel like I'm a whole new fan of Spurs, right? It's just, it's a weird feeling, and it's an awesome feeling. I also think what you said about us needing to finish 17th is interesting. We haven't even said this yet, every single one of us on the first episode of the season said, if you were guaranteed the Europa League, would you take finishing 17th? And we all said, absolutely. We would take that right now. 17th.
It's our fault. Sorry, guys.
It's actually so absurd when you put it that way, though, because it is. It's a friggin' would you rather bar question. And
here's the thing about it all.
It's so great.
We all said that, and you know who else said that? I'm understanding. And fucking Postecoglou said, yep, I will also take that. And he went out and he did it. And I can't believe that today happened. I said earlier it was going to be hard for me to get my words out. It's all coming back to me now. It's hard to get my words out right now, but I can't believe that we won today. And like I said, I feel just different as a Spurs fan in a way that I really can't quite explain yet.
Guys, before we move to wrap here, I want to let everyone just get anything else you want to get off your chest. We're going to leave plenty of meat on the bone for a podcast on Sunday. We will be doing that. There is another match to be played, even though I'm pretty sure Sonny said maybe they could just call it off, because I think he's still going to be celebrating come Sunday. But what else? What else do we want to get off what else do we want to get off our chest before we get out of here tonight?
Well, you alluded to it earlier. I really think Richarlison deserves a ton of credit for the shift that he put in.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing it up again.
He was so committed, and he literally left everything on the pitch. I don't think he could have played another minute. So that was
that's a great shot.
You know, he's a player who obviously has not been at Tottenham for that long, relatively, but it really feels like he has actually adopted the club in his heart, and he cares about it the way that we fans do. So I have a lot of time for Richarlison, and I'm very glad that he was here for this moment.
I think that's such a great shout. This was absolutely a Richarlison game. This was a get in there in shithouse and elbows and kneecaps and Tottenham till I die from Nathaniel. And just all of the grit and guile and dark arts that you would love to see from, any cold Tuesday night in Stoke, Andrew. This game had, and it just called for what Richarlison does well, which is just a try hard. God, he has the worst touch of a Brazilian striker I've ever seen, but he's just a try hard son of a gun, and that's exactly what this needed. Just press and try hard, you son of a gun. And now he's going to be on the walls at Tottenham Hotspur forever.
No doubt about it. And this was far from a rainy night in Stoke. This was a warmer night on the north coast of Spain, but we'll take it all just the same. I also just love how the city of Bilbao is now going to live in Tottenham lore for no other reason than this night. It's really, really beautiful.
Makes you want to go to Basque country.
It certainly does. Like I said, guys, we're going to leave plenty of meat on the bone for Sunday. Reach out to us on the socials if you've got anything else that you want us to talk about. But we're gonna let this digest for a few days and come back to you guys with a full-on pod on Sunday following the Brighton match. Todd, go ahead.
Yeah, I got one last question for you, Andrew.
Oh God. Wait, why did I say this? I'm scared.
Well, you did walk right into it, to be fair. Who would you rather face to lift that Super Cup in 3 months? Was it PSG or Inter?
Oh, I was going to say, I know Inter's playing. I forgot who they were playing for a second. Thank you for saying it. It would be Inter, because I don't want PSG to win a Champions League, because I just think that's fun banter.
Fair.
That's basically my own.
That's reason. A really good point. Yeah, I gotta go with Andrew's answer.
Yeah, I don't forget about PSG. I don't need them to win.
Yeah, dude, and Tottenham and Inter have a history. That would be fantastic. I agree.
Is that this Saturday or next Saturday? I don't remember.
Next Saturday.
There's a game. I don't know, dude. The only game I was worried about was today.
We were going over, and this is something we can save for Sunday too. It's funny. We were going over it and realizing I think there's a strong possibility now of 9 English teams playing European football next season. Yeah, Chelsea are obviously, they're in the Conference League final next week against Betis, but they're also in position to make the Champions League as well. It's going to be a crowded European field for English teams next season. And guys, Tottenham Hotspur are a part of it, which is pretty damn incredible. Let's leave it there. We will come back to you guys on Sunday following the Brighton match. There's going to be plenty to talk about still. We're obviously going to talk about the Brighton match and the close of the season, but there'll be plenty of fallout from today. There is news on the Spurs women's side as well, which we'll get to then. We will talk about it all on Sunday on the pod. Thank you guys for joining the live stream. This is something a little new that we wanted to try and do, and appreciate all of our viewers and commenters. We'll try to do this more perhaps throughout the summer as news warrants, but I love you guys. This has been a blast. And as always, come on, you Spurs, European champions. Let's go.